Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11 and lots of mods. Okay, mentioning that lots and lots of mods, we just have this one sort of significant starting point. Mostly what I try to bring you is the game that you will play. I have modded it in minor ways, things to suit my taste. Some are just cosmetic, like have just keeping this version of Hitler versus the color one, which I just don't like so well. That Revolverheld has, or another minor thing is just put twin engine fighters priority way down on the bottom, so that if I pair them with some of these other units, you'll see those units as primary. I'm looking at them as escorts. Excuse me. So, you know, I modded the game a little bit, but it's still more or less what you're going to play. Now, Revolverheld was very kind to let me know, and so and I accepted that he is working on a new version of GGA, and that most of the added content starts shortly after the war starts. So, and asked if I wanted to include it and that it should be save game compatible. I have tested it. It is save game compatible. And I said yes. So this is a beta version. A big element that I was particularly saying yes to and that I wanted was for some of the scripted invasions. They were fixed from, you know, conditions in which they happen, I gather. More realistic in that sense, and maybe some that may have been firing repeatedly, don't know in detail. Trying to stay away from looking at the code, so I'm somewhat surprised by it and worried. You know, it's not just am I surprised by the invasion, is worrying about where is the invasion. You know, if I know it's coming in some port or some place, I could just garrison that up and then leave the rest, but not knowing keeps me guessing. So that, as well as more events that are supposedly happening after the start of the war, though I'm starting it a little late. So I'm thinking that there will be conditions. Now, one of the things I have, the only real thing I've noticed here is we have this general mobilization, or mobilized general commandos. Now that, here it says, it's at least the 1st of February 38. So we're obviously well past that now. And it's right here. I'm guessing that this will set a flag. We'll get this effect here, and other events will be looking to see that it's been set and then fire. So we may say start just after December, may get a bunch of stuff that is little out of date, if you will, from when it should happen. That's sort of the thing, is if you were to be playing along with Black Ice and then decide to put in you know, Third Reich events, and it's already 1938, you'll have a lot of events firing that should have fired in 36 or 37, and could cause serious problems. But also the idea that things that should have been happening for a long time won't, and other things, you get like a lot of horrendous penalties happening all at once when they should have been spaced out over a few years. So adding stuff late into your game is not always good. Fortunately, I do believe that this is mostly a situation where we're looking at is much of the added content, at least, is after this time period. So we're going to continue with it. And as I was talking to Das G the other day, they have lots of plans to continue to do things for Black Ice. Some of this stuff, though, I mean, a lot of this, he wasn't giving me any details, but just generally, they have lots of wants to do. Some stuff will be showing up in their next release, and there was some, I guess, internal debate whether they should just add some more stuff, put it out in the next, I don't know, maybe a month or so. I'm just guessing on that, or wait a bit to do major things and then release it out. Now, either way, probably isn't going to affect us so much, or me here, because I plan on taking this game to some sort of conclusion. I don't have the fear that the AI is going to roll into Berlin on me. They might make it very difficult for me to, say, take Moscow and defeat the Soviets or something. That may happen, and especially with this game, especially because I'm going to be much more concerned about garrisoning the West here, that I may not be putting nearly as many forces excuse me, into the East. So we may see a longer, more significant Soviet war happening. That may very well happen, and we can see how that turns out. But I want to take this to a logical conclusion before ending. Now, I am looking at, well, I'm working with people and getting, as you know, I made the announcement. If you don't know, please find the announcement video of doing a multiplayer ongoing game that will be televised, as they say, so that if I don't know if by the time this airs I've picked the roster of players. I'm still, at least while making this, taking volunteers, whether there's going to be enough slots or not. If I can get the thing tested and working well enough, and if having a bunch of people playing more than just some of the majors, I will happily take what I'm considering as sort of alternates. I don't know, an Axis alternate might be playing something like Hungary or Romania, that then if the Italian or Japanese player can't show up a particular playing session, fine, one of these other people could step in and play that for the session. Similarly, may have a French player that once France is defeated, which I'm presuming, of course, hey, if the French and United Kingdom can defeat Germany in 1940 or something, great. But we'll see how that goes. But if France is defeated, they can move to something like Australia or Canada or whatever, so that there'll be some sort of possible options for some people. So we will see how that all works out. And I guess that's a very key element to those of you who are volunteering. We have to see how it all works out, because I have not hosted successfully yet even a practice game of Hearts of Iron 3. And so we'll see how it works out. Part of it will be if you guys can get those of you who volunteered and get in, we'll be looking at the right checksums to be able to play the thing and everything like that. So we have to work through some of that. Okay. Medium warship, which is grayed out, but we can do any aircraft system. So we're going to switch over to that. That's just sort of a plug for that upcoming don't know when series. It's still a sometime, someday thing. Because I got to get the thing working right before I commit to whatever. I'm committing to trying to get the thing work right and get things going. Direct fire unit training, great. And that is here. Okay. Prototypes. Let's get close air support. Close air support has the best, I believe, hard attack for taking out tanks, where light and medium bombers are better for taking out infantry units. It looks like soft attack light bombers looks a little better, where the medium bombers can, I believe, do the strategic attack as well. So they all play a function. And recently, a while ago, I put out an episode in which I was very critical of Germany and some I'll call them German patriots, disagreed with my views, and I totally get that, and they're just my views of things. Well, I was going to send an infantry division up. Yes. On board the ships. Send the ships over here, and we want you to rebase, as well as just transfer the units of Germany, and I think, at least I hope we're all big boys here. Wish there were more girls, but it just seems like all the viewers are guys. Let's see. Yeah. And so yeah, we can disagree, and I hope you guys can take the criticisms. They're my views. It doesn't mean I'm right. I think, of course, I am right, but that would be up to debate. Now, I'm bringing that up because there was, on a different post a little while before, an interesting encounter with a neo-Nazi of some type, and as one of you pointed out, and I do think quite possibly because it was Cyrillic, a Ukrainian, and so I did check out his website, and he may still be watching the series. I don't know. He had some Ukrainian flags in some of the videos he had liked or something. I just quickly went to his channel, because you all have a YouTube channel if you have a YouTube account, basically, in a way. Not that you've necessarily posted any videos. So it was very interesting. I found out that I'm a normie, I guess is what they call non-Nazis or something, a normal type, a normie. That was sort of an interesting idea, but it was sort of an interesting encounter with some sort type of neo-Nazi type person, and those types, you know, trying to think here how I should put this. I mean, it's fine if they want to watch. I'm happy if I want to watch. Do I, as a few of you know, you don't change people's political views? Well, obviously, that's not true, because why do companies and political campaigns put so much money in advertising? Because they change people's political views. But yeah, I'll agree that just watching a few YouTube videos isn't going to make you change your views. And if you hold some views super strongly, yeah, I don't really think I'm going to change any of, you know, rabid viewers of one political party or another. I mean, not to do something else. But I do think there's a lot of people that I'm just trying to make people think about things. And so, you know, yeah, if the neo-Nazis want to watch, fine. I don't think I'm going to say anything that's going to change their mind. I wish I could. But that doesn't seem likely at the moment that they're going to change their mind. Oh, oh yeah, we're massively okay, so we're going to stop that. We need to start stopping some of these guys. I've shifted a bunch more back into officers, which should be bringing that up soon, hopefully. As you can see, almost as much now in officers as research, and we're going to just fire or close that out. Okay, dry fire. Okay, another glider. Do we have a complete, just a glider section? That, hopefully, we did have a couple. Okay, well, down at 16, so that isn't so great, but isn't so bad either. They're just expensive. That's why we're building some regular. The gliders, they're not useless, but they're not so useful. Part of the problem is they are very slow, which they sort of should be. They can carry. They have a lot of transport weight. Is that manpower costs? Transport capacity, yes. So you can see 21, almost as much as a heavy transport plane, but they move fairly slow. So they can. So if you want to, and they have relatively short range. So they're great for moving heavy units that can be air transported, say, across the channel here. And I think that's exactly what they're designed. Maybe a bit more in the reverse looking at for the D-Day kind of thing, but they're quite capable of that. On the Eastern Front for moving supplies, like I say, they're slow. Their heavy supply movement will help mitigate that, but the big limitation is that they're short range. But hey, if you've got supplies coming into, say, someplace like Leningrad up here, and you've got real supply problems in this sort of region, they can be good. So I'm probably going to stop building any more of those, but I thought it would be a worthy thing to try. Airborne Unit Training Events, which we're going to end just because we are so doing it. Because I want to feel, not that there's a problem if you want to queue up a bunch of things to research, great. I was watching a little bit of Benjamin Magnus the other day playing some Hearts of Iron, and seeing how he's doing some of his not just making, like, say, 4 at once, but putting 4 at once of something down and then serially keeping that in production. If that's your style, which is maybe better than mine, that's great. You know, sort of stacking up what you're going to be doing in the future, so you don't have to like constantly come back and manage it. But I sort of vaguely want to know what's actively being done. And so yes, you could readily, and actually doing some of these are special limited productions, because I'm going to be tarring them with some of these bunches of leftover artillery and such. That's the artillery school. I think, yeah, these guys pack artillery. Is that it? Maybe it's these. Yeah, these are just, I don't know why I call them that here. Artillery Shovel 1. Don't know. Oh good. Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, which we're going to stick those into the Kriegsmarine main fleet. Sorry, I am getting a little distracted here. Now, what some of this, like this is done partially or maybe primarily so that the AI sees it as a unit, and maybe we'll send it out convoy raiding. That's at least sort of the idea with this, because I forget what the name was changed to. And they didn't want the Deutschland to be sunk, so they changed the name, because that'd be Germany being sunk. They changed it to something else. But like, not so much the Admiral Scheer, but the Prinz Eugen and the Graf Spee and whatnot were sent in the Bismarck. Were sent out as commerce raiders, and I would say for the effectiveness of them, it was a waste, a pure waste. The cost that it takes to build those ships, and the limited, sure, if you were getting ready for an invasion of England, and you successfully kept it reasonably secret from the British, that you're that close, and you were to send out something like the Bismarck or whatever, and the British all get all panicked over Bismarck, because if they would encounter a normal convoy with some destroyers, maybe a few light cruisers or something, it could go in and just wreck those and just sink lots and lots of stuff. So panic, you know, if you've seen the movie Sink the Bismarck, great movie, recommend it. Yeah, getting the fleet all out to search for it, and they were pulling, I believe, some major escorts from convoys coming down this way, to, instead of trying to protect the convoy, which of course if they were to show up, it's protected to a degree, but sending, you know, to hunt for the Bismarck, getting all that to happen, that'd be great if you're like, and even if you lose the Bismarck, if you succeed in taking Britain. But just for temporary distraction, or the idea that you're going to sink a few convoys, which are critical, but those capital ships are, historically, they took 4 years to build. Now, once war gets started, the U.S. does very much increase on that time, but still, it takes a lot of time to build those things. And so I think putting them out on commerce rating was historically a bad move. You can decide to. I don't know what I'm going to do with, say, my Graf Spee. Probably not. Now, putting out the covert commerce raiders, putting out submarines on commerce rating, all that kind of stuff, oh yeah, that's great. I'm all good with that. But I am not planning on fleet actions either, so why am I putting potentially a large fleet? Well, I am sort of maybe planning on fleet actions against Soviet fleets in the Baltic, or that type of thing. But also what I'm looking at with mine is escorting major troop invasion, whatever type convoys that hopefully I will avoid. But if I can't avoid, maybe whatever I engage, I can survive. I don't know if defeat's the right term. Okay. So let's drop him into there. Okay, let's look for the command. There we are. And hey, look at that! Look at that! Yeah, I got it right. Put a fleet destroyer in with a naval bomber. That's great. It once in a while gets it right. And I actually think it did get it right, not just pure random effect. Okay, well, with the, whether it was that last air unit or the naval units we've now, but, well, probably air unit, because it's continental military power, but national leadership modifier plus 8%, and leadership plus 8, and organization regain plus 8, which is good. So we want that very much, which will help our leadership a lot. We're already up at 101. Again, the more officers you have, up to 110%, the better your units will be, the better they will fight. The reason it was capped at 110 as opposed to what vanilla is like 140 or something is because the AI will sort of naturally cap itself. So and good. See, it's doing this right. It's seeing those, doing that. Come on, there we go. Now, what I should be having, yes, okay. I'm going to pair them with seaplanes. Seaplanes are the better for taking out submarines. Naval bombers are better for taking out, proper naval vessels. But I also think the seaplanes are better for spotting both submarines and surface vessels. So to spot, to engage, having the seaplanes there is very useful. Keep that in mind. So even if you want a big fleet destroying stack, great. I would still throw in a few, or a seaplane or something in with that stack to better spot. And absolutely all of the different bomber types, some will be better than others, you can look at the stats to figure that out, are useful at naval bombing. As long as they can do that, it's useful to have them as a naval bomber. What they don't do well is, generally speaking, is spot out at sea, and they generally don't attack as well. But it's still, if you've got an active land campaign that you want to use your land bombers on, use them. Just do so. But if you don't have an active land campaign, or you want to make sure you're protecting a convoy route, or a troop transport, your moving a lot of stuff. Putting some of those on it are good, because once an engagement is found, you know, that whether it's going after submarines or surface vessels or both, once it's found, then the other regular bombers will join in the fight. So they're an additive type thing. Okay, and okay, yes. So we're gonna drop him here, and we have okay, well, we have this guy here, so let's... The reason it says pack artillery is because we swapped him out for a pack artillery unit. So there we go. So now they have an artillery unit, and let's see what we're looking at here. Yeah, we'll give it an anti-tank unit. And we're going to send him over here. Get an HQ. Because that with an HQ will be a very reasonable division to have. And a second. Okay, we're down to medium popularity. Well, not my favorite. Okay. Okay, we're going to grab you. And let's grab... Oh, we've got a lot of lower numbers here. Let's grab 52. So we're going to move all these guys over here so the name matches the symbol of that. And well, let's go back and look at that. There he is. Oh, it's just under here. Yep, lots of stuff popping up. Okay, not too bad though. Panzer leader. That's sort of a no. We like panzer leaders. Panzer leaders are good. We're going to use panzer leaders, but let's find a... Yeah, this guy looks reasonably good. I'm going to start sending units over here. I think we've got Poland handled. Okay, build the Istanbul to Tehran railroad. Oil shipments via sea links are very vulnerable to blockade and by the British and the French. There is a railroad from Istanbul to Elzig in Turkey, shown here in black. There are currently no rail links between Turkey and Iran, partly because the very rough terrain that would make building a railroad a hard job. There are also some railroads in Iran, one from Tehran to Tabriz, with the support of the Reichsbahn, German Railway, and Philip Holzmann AG. Construction of a rail link could be made from Ezet to Tabriz. It would be costly and take time, years, should we start. Okay. This is from a all these photos and bits are from a railway magazine from the 1930s. I forget the exact date. I found, you know, from the story printed in it, including the bridge from somewhere in Turkey, and actually this sort of southern railway. You got to go into Syria because it was built during the Ottoman period, so it sort of bounces back and across borders. The dash lines were they had to take truck or some sort of vehicle, I presume trucks, to connect on their railway journeys around this part of the world. So it's unconnected through Iraq or through Tehran, but you have this. I added the red there. Thought that was a reasonably good adding there. This did not happen historically. I just used Philip Holzmann AG because they had built the Tehran Hospital and the Tehran Railway Station. And the Reichsbahn, of course, has, I would say, just about as much as anybody in the world at this time of railway building expertise, so they could do it. It's across very harsh country. There is still no rail links. sea links are just better than rail links. It's just a fact. China, with its One Belt, One Road, or whatever initiative, has built and has improved the rail links between China and Europe, and is trying to get companies to ship goods, which are obviously going across Russia, ship goods that way, and they're really promoting it out. But it costs something like 3 or 4 times as much to ship them today, ship them via rail, as they do to put them on board ship. China is a continental power. It is looking at, it thinks in continental terms. China has always thought in continental terms. Yes, there was a couple of big exploratory fleets out that went around that were sort of big super fleets of the day, but still, they're a continental power. They don't think in terms of the sea. And so that's how they see things. And also, I think they're also looking a bit at strategic reasoning, as the idea that if, say there is a war or a blockade, Japan's navy isn't so bad, actually, and with the U.S. support, we could blockade coastally China, and they want to be able to trade, and that's a reasonable thing. But trading that great long distance via railways is just way too expensive. Now, this is obviously not nearly that far, but still runs into some of the same problems. So, what this does is that if it works right, and there are some things, this costs a super lot amount of money, because you're spending money in corrupt countries. That's how I look at it. Especially from the post-war world, when you no longer have colonialism, but you have local countries, and you want to build something, and if you pay the locals to do it. The Chinese have been very smart in their neo-colonialism, and this mostly as part of Africa. They've been building roads and such, but they have been building them, not paying local. I mean, they hire locals to work in it, but it's their companies that are running it, and they don't pay off bribes to the locals, at least not in significant ways. So they actually get stuff done. It's sort of the either anti-colonial, because for some reason China isn't a colonial power. Ask Tibet whether it thinks it's a colonial power or not, or Bhutan, who's worried about its sovereignty and its border. So ask a few other places whether China is a colonial power or not. And so it's sort of a anti-colonialism, as well as from the Africans, as well as I think the Western countries want to be seen to, well, we're going to help out our former colonies and have them do it. Now it isn't working. So so that's why I look at it. It costs lots of money, lots of supplies, some rare materials, not much, lots of energy, lots of metal. You improve relations, and you start a process, which will basically, all that it does is improve some of the infrastructure in this part of the world to move supplies across. Unfortunately, you really can't readily trade. I wish we could. You can't get to the situation in which would then allow proper trade without going via the sea. If you could do that, to have Iran somehow then trade just with Germany, so long as you could check for controls of countries or whatever and do it, I can vaguely see some sort of periodically deduct oil from Iran and periodically give it to the Germany, sort of through the way they do the supplies for Greece and Crete and whatnot. Events, you could do some of that kind of stuff, yeah. And check for axis or neutral controls of certain regions here. So you could do that, but that's more programming that I went to. Basically, I look at this as to some degree what it would take to build this railway. It's going to take some time before you actually get the benefit of it. And it's also cost you some manpower, because there's going to be a bunch of Germans, maybe not digging all the ditches out there, but managing and overseeing the project. We're going to say no. It isn't. It is designed not to be worth it. But if you wanted to build it, you can. Okay. HE 114s for Sweden. I thought this was interesting. Sweden has asked us for some naval bombers to help protect it from the USSR. If we have no plans of conquest for Sweden, it would be helpful to have them strong enough to deter the Soviets. So that's German naval bombers for Sweden. Well, I don't think naval bombers are going to really matter, because I'm still thinking of taking Sweden. That's but I do want to improve my relations with Sweden, because currently they are at, let's keep this in mind as well, even if you do plan on, they're currently sort of stuck here at 48. So if we do this, we might be able to get that Swedish steel thing going. We sell some there, because they're worried at this time, obviously, and as they worry today about Russia, no longer the Soviets, but about Russia. They're rearming. Sweden is, I understand. So yes, we will sell them some. We're just costing us supplies. They'll get like just 1 unit of naval bombers. So yes, cool. 18th Army Commando, formed in November 5th, 39, under General Field Marshal George von Kuchler, the military region where class 6. Okay, part of the Netherlands offensive. Panzertruppen School, or Schule, Munster, Armored Troop School number 1 was one of the 2 major schools set up by the German Panzerwaffe in World War II to train German armored forces to operate panzers. It was based in Munster, Lower Saxony in Germany. The Panzertruppenschule was a branch school where officer candidates were sent after 12 to 16 weeks basic, or spent in basic training, and having successfully undertaken an 8-week course at the Kriegsschule. Prospective panzer troops in the rank of Fraureich undertook a 16-week training course which aimed to familiarize the officer candidates with the nuances and workings of the panzer, and also the tactics to be used when commanding panzers in the field. In late 43, the school was stripped of its experienced instructors, who were used to form the elite Panzerlehr Division. Yes, this is an interesting thing that they did do is in 43, which is, well, I think the Germans ultimately had lost the war by 43 just because of various strategic things. Nothing that they could have done in a realistic sense in 43 was going to change whether they won or lost. Might change where the borders of Germany would be, whether it was, you know, the Western Allies moving into Berlin, or whether it's the Soviets moving into Berlin, or whatever. That, you know, they may have been able to change some of those outcomes, but by that point, in my opinion, the war was lost. Though it may not appear to the Germans to have been lost. By mid 44, even before, you know, because this is late 43, but by mid 44, even before the D-Day, Germany should have known they were lost. The war was lost, and it was just how were you going to end the thing, you know, and what state. Not that you were necessarily going to surrender, but how you were going to end it. So they take the instructors out, which are experienced instructors, and formed Panzerlehr, which was a very elite division. The instructors, were sent in, but I also believe a lot of the, you know, just men, trainees from this school and maybe some other schools were also stripped out. So they weren't entirely all, you know, old experienced hands at this, but, you know, it was done. So it's a very good elite division. Now, what they did do, is my understanding, again, I don't know all the details, but they didn't close down the school. And this is if, and I don't know exactly how it was handled. If you pull off all your trained instructors and send them out to form an elite division, that's great, but who's going to be the new instructors? Now, I think, and again, my understanding is they resent in a new batch of instructors that were old hands, you know, qualified people to be able to training, that were from active duty divisions. And if it was done in the right sort of thing and not like overnight, so that the new guys, well, yeah, I know how to command panzer troops, but how do I teach this, you know, this, you know, teaching is a different skill than doing something. You can be a very good shooter and not be able to train somebody else well how to shoot. Being able to train people is a skill in and of itself. You should also say, if you're a shooter, know how to shoot too, of course, but it's another sort of skill. And I just don't know if it was handled well or not. If it was handled well, that's actually a good thing, because you can then take a lot of leadership type elements, whether they're officers or NCOs or whatever, that are, you know, having a form of PTSD, as we would now call it, and you put them into a school situation. They're still in a structured military situation, so they still understand the rules, but they're no longer getting that war fatigue of being at war, and they're doing something useful, training up new soldiers. So had that been done well, and I'm not saying it wasn't, but had it been done well, that's actually a good move. So yes, or it could have, like I said, if it's done badly, it would have screwed things up. Okay, so we want to do that, and which gives us this. I want to take a quick look. Hopefully, no, this is a long way down. I'm going to have to start longer scrolling. Okay. Hopefully, if this is a required to survive units, they would have put this in other names. So I'm looking that this is something that you'll be tempted at using as a division, because you change out that. Well, you leave this here because this is, I guess, well, I don't know how that's set up, but that doesn't give you the combined arms. So you need a combined arms unit and a maybe a transport unit there, and you've got yourself a really good armored division there, minus the infantry element. So maybe you want to do that, and of course then you got the mechanized division. So yeah, you've got a really good panzer division there, actually. No artillery as I'm looking at this. Well, whatever, but you got the basics of it, and that would work out very well. Now, I talked to some of you in the comment sections below about what to do about some units, and particularly some of these guys. These guys sitting here, because I don't think the anti-aircraft has any suppression. No, 0. The HQ defense unit does have some suppression, actually fairly good, 4. So it does. The HQ unit, maybe you might want to leave there, just as a suppression from revolt risk. But those don't do any good, because it's sitting on a potential, well, I don't know why it's here as opposed to Erfurt. Let's move this to Erfurt. It doesn't stop strategic bombing at all. We wish it would. We, the modders, and maybe players do too. That if you had anti-aircraft units that are mobile instead of these guys, it would stop strategic or affect strategic type bombings. It won't. So what good does it do? Well, like I say, not really any good except for suppression. And so why is it here? Well, one, it's for immersion, and yeah, you can. And as one person, immersion is all well and good, and that's true. But also part of the reason why it's there, maybe not the major, but part of the reason is that a lot of these type of units, as the war got bad, and as sort of the Luft, as even before the war really got real bad, but a lot of these units were created into Flak Divisions under the Luftwaffe. And sometimes I think the way the Flak Divisions were deployed, they weren't deployed as a division as so much as that was sort of an administrative tool to manage the battalions that were then spread out in a corps or an army, so that region of the battlefield has a lot of flak guns to shoot at, obviously, looking over the Soviets here, the Eastern Front, that part of the, shoot at Soviet aircraft or wherever. So that was, I think, a lot of the Flak divisions were done that way, spread out. Now, there were other Luftwaffe divisions that were set up as fighting formations, ground fighting formations, those were set up to be divisions as in a combat formation as opposed to an administrative format. So it's perfectly legit to, particularly the anti-aircraft guns, to send them to some other, and the way Hearts of Iron works, you either want to attach them to an HQ that you plan on either using as a defense. Well, if the AI getting smart and is starting to bomb HQs, it would be a HQ defensive, and the Flak Stab could be used as an HQ defensive attachment on the Eastern Front. So you could use both of those on the, somewhere. It doesn't have to be the Eastern Front. You can use those there as quite legitimately. Now, what I would sort of challenge you to do, and what I'm sort of planning on doing, is not doing that unless I need to, instead of plan to. Where, like those leftover Czech guns and such that we're getting up here, those are leftover guns that were repurposed, whether it's often because of caliber incompatibilities, into garrison units. But an artillery piece is an artillery piece here, so it doesn't matter whether they were used as, because they all had the little T after them for Czech, whether they were used for, garrison use or putting on frontline divisions. They have the same effect now. They're just that. Okay, field howitzer. Okay. What cannon? Are they upgrading? I don't know. But so that you can use these, because that's sort of what they were designed to be done. And my plan is, at least mostly, because we're facing in the east, use these as, in the west we're facing possible invasion. These guys are meant to be reserve elements. You can upgrade it to a regular infantry division or motorized division and send it off, or you can wait until to see if you need to do it, or does the situation get bad enough to need to do it, is sort of some of the situation. Okay, now this I believe is from Revolverheld's update, primarily because of some of the things he said, and no image, it is beta 1 and 2. I did sort of poke him a little bit because I was going to get to the point of running out episodes, and 1 and 2 needed to, also because of work schedule, and probably by the time you'll be seeing this I'll be busy working a bit more, so I have to make a few beforehand. So get this stuff out to me without images is absolutely fine and totally understandable, both on the beta and that I poked him to do it fast. Okay, British guarantee for Greece. In the aftermath of the Italian expansion into Albania, Britain and France offered Greece guarantees on the 13th of April 1939. Temporarily, the British guarantee of April 1939 had placed fascist Greece beyond Italian reach unless Mussolini was prepared to join, or indeed to start a general war in Europe. Okay, interesting. I did not know that. I am learning that they specifically did that. I did not know that they did any sort of guarantees. So United Kingdom will start guaranteeing Greece, and this could cause problems. No, it won't cause problems. Never mind. Because I was thinking, because one sort of historical thing I'm thinking about doing, and I don't know if I'll allow myself to do it with the multiplayer. Probably, maybe not. Maybe I'll challenge myself that way. But just invading Yugoslavia, which normally gets me at war with Greece because they guarantee Yugoslavia, but if Britain's already at war with us, so that doesn't matter. So yes, so relations are Greece and Italy and United Kingdom get a little worse. Okay, and we are going to, yes, mobilize the 7th. Which are all of those infantry divisions. Sorry about this, let's get over here. And yes, folks, I can readily learn, World War II is such a big topic, and it's not that, say, the 7 Years' War, and I am picking that one with particular malice, isn't an equally huge topic, because it was, in a way, the First World War, because there were major fighting in North America, and there was major fighting in India between the British and French, or maybe more correctly, the British and French puppet powers within India. So it happened on multiple continents, the 7 Years' War. You know, obviously there's been no real fighting because no one's found the Nazi secret bases in Antarctica. There's been no real fighting in Antarctica. But so, not that that isn't an equally big topic, but the problem with that is the lack of documentation compared to World War II. There is a lot of documentation on the 7 Years' War, still existing, but most of it is unresearched, quite honestly, just because no one's had enough of an interest in it. Books on the 7 Years' War don't sell like books with Hitler on the cover, so you don't get rich researching it. Not that you get rich writing books, but okay, cool. We got the Scharnhorst loss. But still, oh, I want to look at my relations now with Sweden. Did that help? Nope, still at 48. Okay, well. But they're just between more photos, you know, movies from the period. I'm not talking about movies made after. I mean, like, you know, documentary film footage, and just so much more has been written, and so much more is in the archives on World War II, that it's just such a huge topic. Okay, and nice now it's launched. So we have Vienna Totenkopf Standard, so let's attach that to oh yeah, we can do it really well. We still need to attach some more. Organize that up some more. So there's so much to learn on World War II. One guy I knew years ago now, old at the time that I knew him, but he wanted to have a really good library on books about the sea, and he went and he wanted to own it as a as a library about it, and he went in, you know, was going to have a sort of very complete library on this subject, and was talking to, he told this story, I heard it a couple of times, but I don't remember it in all detail, talking to a librarian in a library about this stuff, and that's just too big of a topic. You just can't do that well. There's just no practical way to do it. You've got to pick a topic within that to have it. And so he picked lighthouses. So when I saw his collection of books on the lighthouses, it was extensive. And I don't even think I saw most of it, but it was extensive. But he had a literal card catalog that was literally a wall of card catalogs, you know, like from those of you old enough to know what a card catalog is, if they still have them in libraries, that he had his books card cataloged in there with topics and all the stuff that he put together like you would in a real library, so that if you wanted to find the stuff, and he, you know, when I saw him one time, at the time he had like 4 new books in, and they were all in German on lighthouses that he bought. And so he had the income in his lifetime to buy most every book that was reasonably available. I'm not saying something super rare or something super, you know, weird, but most every book on lighthouses. So since he's focused in on that one topic, he did that extremely well. And I think he read a lot of the books. I don't know if he read all of them, but he read a lot of them. So he's very well read on lighthouses. And he had this huge catalog of this whole library on lighthouses. And so if you really want to do World War II, you do need a broad brush to know what's going on. Because if you just look at Germany, and then you have to understand what was happening to Germany, you know, so the people that were Germany was fighting. But you have to understand that in the context of Japan, you know, and what's going on there and what's going on in other parts of the world. So you have to have a broad brush. But to really sort of do good research, you also have to narrow focus too. You know, is figure out if you want to make a, not necessarily career going to make money on it, because you got to produce something like books, and you could do that to make some money on it. But if you just want to be a World War II history person, and you could be 65 now and start this if you want, or you could be, you know, 10 and start this. Is you need to find a topic. Could be, since we're looking at the Venlo incident, could be spies and spying, or it could be, you know, the radar part of, you know, and all that sort of, not just radar, but the all the sort of electronic elements of the air war. As a, you know, the air war, if you put all the air war in there, it's just too big. You could do the strategic bombing war, something. You gotta try to find an area that would hold your interest and research it through. And yes, in your lifetime, if you've got enough time, you may take your shifts in research to other places, and not just, you know, radar on the air war, but do that radar on the air war for a few years and get that down, and then maybe you'll want to, oh well, now I want to learn about partisan warfare or something completely different field. That's cool, but to do something like World War II, you sort of need to have an area of focus. Obviously, a big area of focus recently for me has been Germany and sort of National Socialism and that kind of stuff. So I've been digging into that. I'm currently reading James Holland's book, The War in the West, sort of the starting of the World War II, and it's a general history, and it's really good, and it's you know, and it's well written, and as a general history book, I would recommend it. But that's different than that I just previously read is Stormtroopers, which and just before that it was Hitler's Monsters: The Occult History of the Third Reich, which those are trying to understand National Socialism and understand National Socialism and different facets of it. So you sort of need to sort of have some sort of focus. It doesn't mean, again, that I won't pick up a book on submarines in World War II and start reading it. It just you sort of have to have focuses at times to do this well. And it's just you know, I do have a degree in this stuff to some degree, but. And so you sort of need to know that. Okay, the Venlo incident. The Venlo incident was a covert German. Oh man, I've recently heard this pronounced, I think, correctly. Sicherheitsdienst? Sicherheitsdienst? I'm going to someday, Germans, I've been meaning to do this, is get 10 or 20 German words that I sort of, you know, I know what they mean. You know, the security service. Dienst is, yeah, service, and Sicherheitsdienst, and get them phonetically pronounced or spelled out to where I would pronounce them. I'm sure with an American accent. I'm not like saying I would fool any of you that, but at least sort of pronounce them correctly with an American accent. But you know, get some of the better stuff, and I should be doing that. Okay, operations where 2 British Secret Service agents, Major Richard Henry Stevens and Captain Sigismund Payne Best, were abducted in the outskirts of the town of Venlo in the Netherlands on the 9th of November 1939. Incident was later used by the German Nazi government to link Britain to George Escher's failed assassination attempt on German Chancellor Adolf Hitler at the Burger Braukeller in Munich. That's the one, I think the one where they were going to plant a bomb. Well, a bunch of them, they planted the bombs in Germany in November 39, and to justify Germany's invasion of the Netherlands. Okay, of course, we're not yet at war, so this probably wouldn't have happened immediately. But the big thing is, well, maybe it, yeah, but it does disrupt our relations with the Netherlands, which can have bad consequences. Okay, this is another one of these partial divisions. Great. So, and we'll give them flak guns instead of anti-tank guns because we don't have any tank guns. Czech anti-tank guns were good, but they just didn't get huge numbers from my understanding. And we'll give them artillery. There we go. But flak guns do give us some more combined arms, firepower capabilities, and some piercing and hard attack. Not nearly as much as proper anti-tank guns, but still. Does give us, of course, good anti-aircraft coverage for the division. Let's see if we can keep it in the 3. I'm looking for a defensive division, maybe commander. No, okay. There we go, just a general sort of general. Do have engineering, so let's put them here. Just my advice on if you want to research World War II, you should, like I say, be reading some general history books, but also to, in time, try to find an area of focus on World War II. Okay, I think we're just going to closing that out, or oh, it is just grayed out. Okay, already cool. So, improve our submarine periscopes. I hope it's something that's upgradable, is it? No, it doesn't look like it is something that's upgradable. Oh well. Okay, Infantry Division Motorized. Right, that's one that we've got here to sort of simulate a Panzer Grenadier without too much of the Grenadier element, or the Panzer element. Grenadier, yes, but they got Sturmgeschütz assault guns, but they're not mechanized. Don't have. Yeah, let's go with this guy. Those assault guns. Fort attack. Oh yeah. So they really do sort of help with fort attack. So that's good. And submarine torpedo tubes have advanced. Great. And also grayed out. Good. So will allow us improve research once you get it. Motor und Sport. Just thought another interesting magazine. Covers a lot of motorsports and what Germany is doing. One of my very early event creations. And another one of these guys. You can very legitimately grab some of these other units and pair them with, you know, just give anti-aircraft guns or artillery to, you know, various garrison defense units, or like we're doing here, use them to build proper divisions. like a Bavarian Division. Sort of pale blue diamond checker, I think is the symbol for Bavaria. There we go. And no, not you. You're gonna go to some either Panzer or semi, motorized type force with that kind of thing. Well, there we go. Be ready for that invasion of the Netherlands. Okay, well, this is, of course, clearing out. Okay, so we're already down to the turpits. Got these guys in production. Well, it's about that time. I think we're going to end the episode here, and I can figure some of that stuff out off camera. So I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you for liking the videos. I really do appreciate that. And another note, if you're still here, I've been hearing a little bit from some of you guys, but also hearing on some of the other major YouTubers, that YouTube is going through this phase of, hey, notifications. What a concept. Maybe we won't do that, or we'll only sort of do that, or other things. I'm hearing that sometimes if you get an email notification, if you click that little bell symbol and you go to my channel, you won't see an update of a new episode for a while. But if you follow the link in the email, you will get it. Or if you don't have the bell symbol notified, you just won't see the new uploaded videos at times. I've been getting some of that. Now, obviously, I have a much smaller sample size than some of the bigger YouTube, so you might want to follow me on Twitter if you're not already doing so, because when a new video goes up, it will be linked there, and you'll be able to follow that link on Twitter right to the video, even if it's not showing up in the normal feed. So you might want to follow me on Twitter. Yes, I understand it's Twitter, and there may be good reasons you don't want to do that, but it would be a way to assure notification. And of course, if you have questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, corrections, please post them below. Love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.